Land, lots of land under starry skies above. Don't fence me in. Let me ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't fence.
When the Emperor Was Divine by Julie Otsuka, chapter titled When the Emperor Was Divine, part 5 of this chapter. The soil's too alkaline, said his mother. Those trees won't last through the winter. She stood by the window in her nightgown, slowly brushing her hair. Outside it was beginning to snow. 2 searchlights crossed into the darkness and fanned out across the fence, and then they went out. A few seconds later they went on again. She pulled out a gray hair from her head and let it fall to the floor. "I'll sweep it up in the morning," she said. And then she turned to him. "I lost an earring on the train. Did I ever tell you that?" He shook his head. "It fell off somewhere between Provo and Nephi. I haven't felt right ever since." He watched as she twisted her hair into a rope and pinned it up in a bun. Her hair was dark and shiny in the light, but her eyes were tired. "You look okay," he said. He did not remember his mother wearing earrings on the train. She closed her eyes for a moment, and then she opened them wide. "I wonder where it went." "What did it look like?" "It looked like a pearl," she said. "It was a pearl." "Maybe it rolled behind the seat." "Or maybe," she said, "it's just gone. Sometimes things disappear, and there's no getting them back. That's just how it is." He picked up the gray hair off the floor and held it up to the light. She looked at him, and then at the strand of her hair in his hand, and then she turned off the light, and they stood there quietly in the darkness, watching the snow fall across the black barrack roofs. The snow was clean and white and blowing in gusts. "I had no business wearing those earrings in the first place," she said after a while. "No business at all." By morning the snow had turned to slush, and a bitter wind was blowing down through the Wasatch Mountains. "Bundle up," said his mother. She ripped out the pages from the Sears Roebuck catalog and stuffed them into the cracks in the walls. She covered the knotholes with the lids of tin cans. She brought back buckets of coal from the coal pile that occasionally appeared in the middle of the road, and she lit a fire in the stove. Then the War Relocation Authority announced it would be distributing military surplus from the First World War. She stood in line for 2 hours and brought back earmuffs and canvas leggings and 3 size 44 navy pea coats. The boy put on a coat and stared at his reflection in the broken mirror. His hair was long and uncombed, and his face was dark brown from the sun. The coat hung down past his knees. He narrowed his eyes and stuck out his 2 front teeth. "I pledge allegiance to the flag." "What's a mala, shorty?" "Solly." So Solly." He poked his thumb through a hole in the wool. "Moths," he said. "Try bullets," said the girl. Their mother pulled out a needle and a spool of black boil-fast thread. She pulled out a thimble. "Let's have a look," she said. The temperature dropped to 10 degrees, 5, more than once, to 20 below. Ice weighed down the thin black branches of the trees, and the sheets on the laundry lines froze into strange, wind-blown shapes. "They are frozen white sails," the boy thought to himself. Some days the wind blew from every direction all at once, and the boy could not walk without falling. Small birds lost their way and dropped out of the sky. Hungry coyotes crept in beneath the barbed wire fence and fought with the stray dogs for scraps of food. A man disappeared and was found frozen to death 3 days later, 10 miles west of the mountains. His face was calm and smiling, they said. His eyes were closed. He had simply lain down beneath the stars and gone to sleep. Below his head, folded into a perfect red square, was a piece of tattered old silk. In his hand was the tin handle of a bucket. They could not pry it loose from his fingers. The girl stood in front of the cracked mirror, staring at the red dot on her chin. She touched it again and again. She said, "Darling, kissy kiss," she said, "just one." Then she frowned and she bared her teeth. They were small and bright and round, like hard glittering stones. Gently he tapped her arm. "What?" she said, but she was not talking to him. She was talking to her reflection in the glass. "What? What?" "The horse meat." "What about it?" "Where do they get it?" She puckered her lips. "From horses." "What kind?" She looked at him in the mirror. "The dead kind." He turned the mirror around so it faced the wall. She went to the window and looked out across the black windswept barracks. Far away on the other side of the fence, giant tumbleweeds were slowly rolling across the basin. Some of the horse meat, she explained, came from the racetrack. If a horse went down with a broken leg, they destroyed it after the race and sent it to the cannery. But most of the horse meat came from wild horses. They round them up in the desert, she said, and then they shoot them. She asked if he remembered the wild mustangs they had seen through the window of the train, and he said that he did. They had long black tails and black flowing manes, and he had watched them galloping in the moonlight across the flat, dusty plain, and then for 3 nights in a row he had dreamed of them. Those are the ones, she said. 3 a.m, the dead time, empty of dreams. He lay awake in the darkness, worrying about the bicycle that he had left behind, chained to the trunk of the persimmon tree. Had the tires gone flat yet? Were the spokes rusted and clogged with weeds? Was the key to the lock still hidden in the shed? But it was the little tin bell that troubled him most. His father had not fastened it securely to the handlebars. "I'll put in the screws tomorrow," he'd said. This was a long time ago. This was months and months ago, when the air still smelled of trees and freshly cut grass, and the roses were just beginning to bloom. "You never did," whispered the boy. By now he was sure of it. The little tin bell was gone. On December 7, it will have been a year since I last saw you. I read your letters every night before I go to bed. So far the winter here has been mild. This morning I woke up at dawn and watched the sun rise. I saw a bald eagle flying toward the mountains. I am in good health and exercise for half an hour after every meal. Please take care of yourself and be helpful to your mother. For 4 days after his arrest, they had not known where he was. The phone had not rung. The FBI had cut the wires, and they could not withdraw any money from the bank. "Your account's been frozen," the boy's mother had been told. At dinner she set the table for 4, and every night before they went to bed she walked out to the front porch and slipped her house key beneath the potted chrysanthemum. "He'll know where to look," she said. On the 5th day she received a short note in the mail from the Immigration Detention Center in San Francisco. "Still awaiting my loyalty hearing. Do not know when my case will be heard or how much longer I will be here. 83 Japanese have already been sent away on a train. Please come see me as soon as possible." She packed a small suitcase full of her husband's things: clothes, towels, a shaving kit, a spare pair of eyeglasses, nose drops, a bar of Yardley soap, a first aid book, and took the next train across the bay. "Was he still wearing his slippers?" the boy asked her when she returned. She said that he was, and his bathrobe too. She said that he had not showered or shaved for days. Then she smiled. "He looked like a hobo," she said. That night she'd set the table for 3. In the morning she'd sent all the boy's father's suits to the cleaners except for one, the blue pinstripe suit he had worn on his last Sunday at home. The blue suit was to remain on the hanger in the closet. "He asked me to leave it there for you to remember him by." But whenever the boy thought of his father on his last Sunday at home, he did not remember the blue suit. He remembered the white flannel robe, the slippers, his father's hatless silhouette framed in the back window of the car, the head stiff and unmoving, staring straight ahead, staring straight into the night as the car drove off slowly into the darkness, not looking back, not even once, just to see if he was there. Christmas Day, gray skies, a bitter cold. In the mess halls there were pine trees decorated with stars cut out of tin cans, and on radios throughout the barracks Bing Crosby was singing "White Christmas." Turkey was served for supper, and candy and gifts from the Quakers and the American Friends Service were distributed to the children in every block. The boy received a small red Swiss Army knife from a Miss Ida Little of Akron, Ohio. "May the Lord look down upon you always," she had written. He sent her a prompt thank you note and carried the knife with him in his pocket wherever he went. Sometimes when he was running he could hear it clacking against his lucky blue stone from the sea, and for a moment he felt very happy. His pockets were filled with good things. The winter seemed to last forever. There were outbreaks of flu and diarrhea and frequent shortages of coal. They had been assigned only 2 army blankets per person. At night the boy fell asleep shivering. His hands were red and chapped from the cold. His throat was always sore. His sister left the barracks early in the morning and did not return until long after dark. She was always in a rush now. Her cheeks were flushed from the cold. "Where are you going?" "Out." She ate all her meals with her friends, never with the boy or his mother. She smoked cigarettes. He could smell them in her hair. One day he saw her standing in line at the mess hall in her Panama hat, and she hardly seemed to recognize him at all. Their old life seemed far away and remote to him now, like a dream he could not quite remember. The bright green grass, the roses, the house on the wide street not far from the sea, that was another time, a different year.
Land, lots of land under starry skies above. Don't fence me in. Let me ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't